Imagine waking up one day to find that half your city was caught in the same scam. That neighbors, friends, even police officers had invested in a man who promised to double their money in weeks. His name was Charles Ponzi, and his scam was so big, so outrageous, that it changed America forever. This is the story of the man who gave birth to the Ponzi scheme. Before he was a con man, Charles Ponzi was a dreamer. Born in Italy in 1882, Ponzi came to America with nothing but ambition. He arrived in Boston with just $2.50 in his pocket, yet he told everyone he was destined for greatness. But America didn't greet him with riches. He worked odd jobs, washed dishes, and even served time in prison for forging a check. Still, Ponzi learned something important. If you tell people what they want to hear, they'll believe you. In 1919, Ponzi stumbled on an idea that seemed genius. He discovered something called an international reply coupon, a small piece of paper used to send prepaid postage across countries. Because of currency differences after World War I, Ponzi realized he could buy these coupons cheap in Europe and cash them in America for a profit. On paper, it worked. In reality, it was nearly impossible to scale. But Ponzi didn't care. He had his pitch. He told investors he could give them 50% profit in 90 days. And in a country desperate for hope after the war, people lined up around the block. Ponzi's scheme spread like wildfire. Secretaries, factory workers, even police officers gave him their savings. In just months, Charles Ponzi went from a broke immigrant to the richest man in Boston. He bought mansions, chauffeured cars, and wore the finest suits. Newspapers called him a financial wizard. But there was one secret Ponzi kept hidden. He wasn't really investing in postage coupons. He was just taking new investors' money and paying it back to old ones. The truth was, Ponzi needed 160 million coupons to cover his promises. In reality, only 27,000 existed in the entire world. By mid-1920, Ponzi's empire was too big to ignore. Journalists started asking questions. How could one man outsmart the entire banking system? And if his idea was so brilliant, why weren't banks doing it themselves? A Boston newspaper finally published an investigation calling his empire a fraud. But instead of fear, Ponzi doubled down. He sued the paper for libel and won public sympathy. Investors gave him even more money. But the pressure was closing in. Government agents launched an audit of his accounts. And when they looked inside Ponzi's books, they didn't find millions in postage coupons. They found nothing. In August 1920, the bubble burst. Within days, Ponzi's company collapsed. Investors rushed to get their money back, but there was nothing left. Ponzi owed $7 million. Yet had barely $200,000 in assets. Tens of thousands of people lost everything: homes, savings, futures. Ponzi was sentenced to prison, but even behind bars, he never lost his charm. He was later deported to Italy and eventually died in poverty in Brazil in 1949. At the end of his life, Ponzi admitted, "I gave them the best show that was ever staged in their territory. It was easy money. It was their greed against my brains." Charles Ponzi didn't just steal money. He gave birth to one of the most famous frauds in history, the Ponzi scheme. From Bernie Madoff's $65 billion scam to crypto frauds today, his shadow still haunts America's financial world. Ponzi taught us that when something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. But in a world hungry for fast money, his story still asks a dangerous question. Would we fall for it again?